So, hello everyone. In this video, we will look at uh, basically my own OpenClow and how I am building it. It's day first. I have started building it, so it's not from scratch. But yeah, um, expect some silence as I quite often tend to hyper focus and forget about recording. But yeah, I will try to document and talk to everyone as much as possible. So at the moment, we've got a few agents here that will expand. I'm not sure if I already published that project as public, but I will shortly. The idea is basically build something between OpenClow and OpenCode because I do a lot of heavy coding. As a base, I am going to use OpenCode solution. However, I am going to adapt it into agentic workflows. So rather than focusing on just building applications and UI for application, which by the way, OpenCode is really good start. They have their own UI, which is quite good. It's just not exactly what I envisaged. That's why a big part of that UI I'm just basically rebuilding. The idea of the project is simple. Basically, do what both of the application do, achieve what both of the application do best, and merge it into one at the same time. Like both are amazing. I'm using currently both OpenCode as well as OpenClow for my daily life, and they're both amazing applications, but they don't basically work in the way that I want them to exactly work. Um, and we live in a world where if you don't like something, you can basically build your own, and you can build from scratch. What I decided is to start with basically two very good foundations and try to merge them into one. And the concept will develop um, into a broad concept of being able to basically build applications with foundation of open code, but at the same time manage my life as I would using OpenClow. So both set of tools will be available. I will try to make it probably slowly and in the future um, compatible with skills and tools from both. So what I'm going to do is import them basically. I will do it. I will make sure that the gateways are available, but at the same time, it is more of a agentic solution. So um, I want to make sure that we have proper UI. Um, I'm saying proper probably because it's AI first build. It's this probably not everything going to look pretty, and I am already aware of that. Uh, but the idea here is that I want to make sure that there's a traceability. So let's say I've got multiple agents. I want to be able to see full chain of delegations. I want to be able to see full chains of delegations. Sorry, my microphone is not working properly, so let's see if I can fix it quickly. So okay, I think this is going to be better now. I think the microphones are connected, and I believe that this is going to work a lot better now. Right. So yeah, going back to the subject. So basically what I want to achieve here is a little bit better transparency in terms of the communications. So I've got basically my agents on the left, my sessions on the bottom. The main idea here is that the agents can delegate. I've got main agent, I call her Pandora. It's basically analogy to Pandora and Pandora's box. I kind of, on one hand, think of AI a little bit of a Pandora's box, because we open it in that box and we don't know what's in it. we don't really understand fully what it's doing, but yeah, put that aside. So it's kind of jokingly calling the project itself Opendora, and the main agent that I'm using is called Pandora, and Pandora is my basically router agent. That is the agent that will have the personality, and mostly it will delegate to other agents. So because you can see over here I've got some session, like this is my main session, and this is my kind of worker session that was actually created by Minds. Minds is another agent that is basically tasked with just creating, managing and testing other agents. So as you can see over here, we've got some testing that I've done for Pandora. So I ask basically Minds to create experiment to basically delegate something to Pandora, and the delegation is simple. Basically create like a calculator app. The Pandora should be basically going and figuring out what to do with it. So as you can see, the delegation here, that is simulating me basically asking to create a calculator app for me. So starting new project, new coding project. So as we can see, Pandora decided to delegate it here to the project owner. Now we can see the delegation here. As I said, all the tools that I mentioned earlier, like OpenClow and OpenCode, the brilliant tools. Just in my mind, there's few things that are missing, and rather than me trying to fix it there, which that's how I started, by the way. I thought that I can just make nice UI for OpenClaw, but it turned out that because of many reasons, which I'm not going to mention here now, it just wasn't possible. So I decided to just build my own. So I've got more traceability into what the agents are actually doing. And it's basically, one thing is that I like the idea that you can just say to the agent something and it will go off and do things for you. But on the other hand, quite often that doesn't go as it's supposed to. So, I wish we would be already in a place where you can basically go and tell something to the agent and the agent would just literally go off and do stuff for you. But quite often this is not the case. With the simple things, yeah, it is. But with more difficult stuff, quite often that goes wrong. And for me, at this point, it's important to be able to, go and trace it and see when it went wrong. So as you can see, I've added some cards in here. So when I've got delegation, I can go and see basically where it delegated to. So as you can see, basically going on the chain, actually let's start from mind. I ask it to do the experiment, so it can do the experiment and later track the experiment and tell me what was wrong, which you will see in a second. But then, you know, I've got Pandora here taking that experiment, and basically, as she's supposed to, as she doesn't have capabilities to create apps, she delegated that to project owner. Now, as you can see, we've got straight away delegation. Then we go into project owner. Project owner has message from Pandora. As you can see, Pandora here. We got link back to the message, so we can trace it both ways. And then he decided to delegate it again to BA. Now, there is still many things wrong with how the delegation process is happening, and I need to tighten the screws on all of that. But at the moment, I kind of got to the stage where some processes are working well, and it was still difficult to even arrive at this stage with the prompt engineering and making sure that the tools are doing what they're supposed to do. It's probably me not knowing enough as well and learning as I go. But yeah, I think I'm getting there. It still needs a lot of work, but I've got the concept of basically how I want it to work, and I'm thinking maybe I should document it. You know, that the thing that I worry with developing something like that is always that, you know, there will be other people that will develop something similar, and of course there is like Paperclip, there is obviously Claude Code, Claude OpenClow himself, which, you know, I already know that I will struggle to compete, you know, with the pace of development and everything else, but hopefully, you know, I can still catch up by being a little bit you know, borrowing some implementations from all those nice applications. But yeah, so the point is of being able to track all the delegations. As you can see, we've got now project owner again delegating to BA. Let's close that off. And we can see the delegation message. Now I can go click there and I can see BA himself, what he received from project owner. I really think that the struggle here is making sure that the agents, basically like harnessing the agents and making sure that they have their own kind of personalities and basically restricting the way they behave, which I find so far very difficult. I mean, using the tools was, you know, making BA basically reply. At the end, it turned out to be a very simple solution, but again, until you know it, you don't know it. But I struggled for a very long time to be able to basically create the chain of the delegations, making sure at the same time that BA will reply and will reply to the right agent, and the right agent is basically the Pandora, because not always, but the right agent to reply always should be the one that user basically started the conversation, so that we are engaged in the right place. So the idea is that Pandora should basically delegate to project owner noticing that my basically requirement was very vague, he should basically send it over to BA, and BA should engage, basically reply to Pandora and engage with me on a basically question to answer basis. And there's still a lot of work to make sure that they behave the way they're supposed to behave. And I do realize again that the industry wants to move very fast into like a one prompt wonder, where we've got all those applications like Lovable and obviously Google AI Studio and I mean V0 and everything else, like even the chat GPTs and Claude codes and everything else, they quite often prioritize single prompt, and I give you like requirement to give me calculator, to produce calculator for me, and they will just go off and produce the calculator for you. But I prefer to work with the agent to ask me questions and try to get kind of my input on how do you want the calculator to look like. If you have your favorite frameworks, like what do you want to use to build it, like simple questions, and then build the picture, and then basically like develop the calculator up, knowing basically how do you want it to look like, what are the specifications. And at the same time, I don't want to sit there and read through like BA's 10 questions. I want one question, I want to answer it, I want to move on to another question, I want to answer it, and then I believe that this will be built like one, it will reduce the silly questions, or maybe the questions that will eventually could basically redundant themselves, or what, I don't know what's the best way to kind of describe it. Like there might be some questions that might be redundant after I answer one question at one, because the conversation might go into different directions. I don't really want to sit here and read 10 pages of BA's questions. Like just ask me 1-2 questions. Then if I keep carrying on the conversation, just carry on the conversation. If I believe that you've got enough and I'm happy with it, I will say, right, this is my requirements, let's move on. Let's get project owner to delegate it to project manager, and project manager can start thinking of planning the entire application, like starting the project folder, starting initiate the Git and all sorts of stuff. But and not only that, I am starting obviously with my kind of domain, which is development of applications, but this is just a kickstart to basically develop that single application. Later I want to have other agents that basically will do other stuff for me, like create some other workflows that are maybe not programmatic as such, but do like simple things like email, your inbox management and everything else, where again the Pandora will be the main kind of router, where if I want anything I will just ask Pandora and she will delegate it to the right agents. Another thing that I want to build is I really don't want to spend too much money on one, developing it, and second, basically running it. I do understand that until I nail it down in terms of communications between the agents, making sure they don't burn credits unnecessarily, And there's always like, definitely with the simple tasks, I believe that agent to agent basically communication and passing over basically the requirements and requests between one agent and another, that probably will increase the burn of credits, of the tokens. But I'm kind of hoping and I'm thinking that with the bigger tasks where we have basically orchestration of the agents and session separation on some of the steps of of the uh, of the development, that might actually, or at least I believe at this stage, that might actually save some tokens and everything else, and definitely reduce the context window, because we probably can uh, do a lot of preparation planning in separate sessions, and then either move it through the artifacts like MD files or even session summaries to basically pass over the required requirements and everything else as just parts into another session where it will just develop the application or whatever. So I'm hoping that the long term it will save on the at least a bigger task. It will save the uh, the tokens, uh, output tokens, and as well as in input tokens. But I as well, I want to run it on the cost. So I've used many providers. I've basically plugged in a lot of providers uh, from OpenCode, Kilo. Basically, I use the providers from OpenCode itself, and they already support a lot of different providers as it. So I've got like OpenRouter. I've got at the moment that this is what I've set up. So basically, everything that is in OpenCode available is available in here. What we've got extra is basically Gemini CLI. That's what I basically imported from Gemini. But if you like, I even use the free tier. The reason why I want to use it is like, why not? Like, I'm using, I believe I'm using Gemini 2.5 Flash, and this is something that I'm using for my we can actually for system agents. So the compaction, I don't even know what I'm using for compaction. Yeah, it's Gemini 2.5 Flash Lite, which is even smaller. Maybe that is not the best use case for compaction. Maybe we want something smarter. But for like title generations for my sessions, for summaries, like, I mean, this is more than capable model, and why pay for that if I can, if I can link to Gemini CLI models, and Google is offering like very generous free tier that I can use. And same goes uh, for uh, other 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 places. Like for Codex, I use OpenAI Codex to log in, and for my most of the smarter kind of um, smarter uh, agents like Minds, who he needs to be quite a little bit more capable because he's building other agents and everything else. I use GPT 5.4, and it's coming from Codex list. But then for like Pandora at the moment, and Project Manager and Project Owner, I'm using Minimax 2.5. That is right. It is free across many places. Well, actually, we can go to providers. It is free in many places. We've got our default model, which is tiny and large actually. Where is it? Let's set it up as that and save. So we've got our free fallback group, which basically is fallback of different providers. I don't have really UI for that now, but the way it works is I've got all these free providers like Kilo Gateway, uh, OpenCode, Zen, and OpenRouter. So what it does is basically matching the same free models. So I've got it set up as for free for now. I don't think it works actually with all. It just works with free at the moment. I probably need to change it and adjust it. But the way it works is it's basically using Zen as a first, then Kilo, well actually then OpenRouter actually, and then Kilo Gateway. So as you can see in here, we've got two providers. So probably I don't think either Kilo Code or OpenRouter is not listing Minimax 2.5 as free model, but we're basically using like those three providers, and the fallback is if Zen has it, we use the Zen. Then if Zen would crash for whatever reason, if I bombard it too much, they might put me on the naughty list, and they will say, right, you need to wait until your your quota, whatever, will refresh. So they might block your usage for a while. So then it will switch to Kilo Code or Open Router. So I can use as much as possible of free options to either manage the agents, build agents, or to actually chat with the agent. So far it's working. I wouldn't say that it's like amazing, like I'm using it so heavy to basically, I don't think I stress tested enough. That's what I'm trying to say. But the idea is that it needs to be clever enough to use a lot of cheap stuff and free stuff, if I can, and if not, I'm going to basically pay a little bit for some other models to make sure the some of the heavy lifting and planning is done by the frontier providers. But yeah, that's basically like a simple introduction. So where it is now, right, at the moment, I overcame basically a crucial step of making sure BA replies back to, actually, what does he reply to? He's got a message from project owner. Yes, so project owner basically delegated task to him. Now, then he replied to basically Pandora. So he replied to Pandora. And then he replied to Pandora again. I don't know why. So this is what I need to tackle on now. Basically, we've got BA rather than just replying to Pandora, where we should see basically that in here. There we go. Here we got our original request, delegation, and then that reply should be enough. So hello, I'm happy to help, define requirements and all that. So that should be enough now for us to see it and say, right, we've got BA, he wants requirements. I'm just going to click on the BA link. That didn't kind of work, which I need to fix. But that should technically open link in to the reply. That should basically take us back to our BA session. So obviously there's more things that I need to fix. All right, so let's look at this. Okay, so this one we cancelled. Yes, never mind. So yeah, so we've got few broken things. We've got reply to. This actually did work. Is it? No, it didn't, because it just took us back to the beginning of the message. So what I need to do is go to Cloud Code. We've got a new session here. I'm actually going to use Cascade here, and I will say, right, there seemed to be a problem with the links in the replies in Pandora. Looked like the link in the reply message does not take us back to the message. It kind of keeps us in the same session. In the same session, it should take us basically back to the message that initiated the tool call and to the session end message, so both. Can you investigate why is this not the case? Right, let's have a look. We go to, right, what else do we have? We have the loop. I think this one, investigate basically BA. Okay, so we've got requirement here. Right, carry on. So here already I have asked the Cascade, or basically in Windsurf, I asked Windsurf to investigate basically what's going on with the problems that we see that BA is constantly replying back to Pandora rather than reply once and wait for user to engage. And I guess it's probably some other stuff, like as we're looking at the progress of our coding agents, looking at our stuff, I can basically explain a little bit more about the concept of different sessions and a little bit of a difference between, you know, how Opendora works and other traditional agents. So the sessions are probably not yet kind of nailed down. Probably there will be some changes, but the concept is, you know, it's a little bit different than standard LLMs, and it kind of combines a bit of a new features with the old features and a bit of a OpenClow, a bit of a standard LLM thinking or session management, and a bit of a new kind of concept that I'm trying to develop and maybe even test, because the concept is always a concept until it's proven to actually, you know, be until this concept can prove that it can add some value. You know, As you can see, we've got 4 different sessions, and the difference between those sessions is that we've got like scratchpad sessions. So scratchpad session is basically like your standard ChatGPT session or standard Claude session or whatever. It's just like a normal session that you would go in and basically create and ask it about anything. So with a bit of a twist. So I want to be able to kind of create either auto deletion or kind of reminder, almost like a prompt for you to actually delete it or convert it at the end of the day or after the week. I haven't yet kind of decided on how it works, but you know, we producing, like, at least I'm guilty of that. Like, I produce so much sessions in like ChatGPT and anywhere else, and quite often I don't reuse those sessions. They just go there, and then if I want to ask the same question again, I quite often just go and create a new session and just create that. And I think it kind of could be managed better. So one of the things or concepts I want to explore within OpenClow, within Opendora, is basically more of a session management. So sessions should become something more than just a standard session. Therefore, we've got Scratchpad, which is basically our throwaway session. So, you know, I ask the question, and if I don't convert it to any other type of session, this will be basically throwaway session. I mean, after 10 days or whatever, if I don't touch that session, it can just go. I mean, what's the point to waste space? And, you know, whatever. But then we've got scope sessions. So imagine the scope session would be like, you know, creating a project. Like, this session then would be there and hold a lot of other sessions related to the project. So imagine that there would be sub-sessions for each feature of the project. And then it's almost like grouping the history of other sessions, but at the same time, if you want, you can ask questions about that within that session. And it would be like a more moving window session. So you don't want to fill it with like entire context. And then we've got like role sessions, which are even a little bit even more different, because the role session is like a main session in OpenClow. So it would basically again be a moving window session. So you would say the agent wouldn't see all the, that's a good example of, you know, Pandora's main session. I don't have anything here, but this is the session you would add to your like WhatsApp or Telegram and have a constant conversation and try to sync it all the time. So you will have constant conversation, but because you have constant conversation, you're probably asking a lot of unrelated questions. So here we want like a moving window of like passing over maybe 10 sessions to the context all the time. The most recent 10 sessions would go to the context window of an LLM rather than entire session context. And then I'm almost thinking like how to manage, like, you know, the fact that we change the conversation and everything else, so the LLM don't get confused and try to figure out, which I haven't yet, how we're going to filter out all that clutter. So this is your kind of OpenClow style session where you've got one session and you constantly have the conversation, and you can have it with every agent. So you would have that main session pinned, that's your role session, and that's where you kind of can have constant conversation. Then, as I said, you can have your scratchpad session where know, I'm going to ask the question and I see where it goes. If it doesn't develop anywhere after 10 days, it's either automatically deleted or I clean it up at the end of the day, and it's just cleaning all those sessions, all that mess. Then you've got scope session, which will be like basically your project. Like if you build a new application, then you create your project session, and within that session, you create basically feature session, and then you deliver that feature, which becomes even more sessions. So it almost like sessions becomes your tickets in that case. So if you want to build application, you've got basically you tracking almost like a GitHub features or GitHub bugs as sessions, and that would be across either agents, or if you build within Opendora some systems that are not agentic, but they still run basically on a daily basis, triggers cron jobs, like you would sometimes in OpenClow. The session is your record, and basically the benefit of that is that it's almost like you can put an agent on top, and then as long as you're not messaging, only replying, let's say I've got basically process that runs every day, and then I might set up that process to have, I don't know, 2 retries and the third one. So 2 retries, if there's error, maybe 3 retries. So there's error. So errors go as a reply. But then the third error, so the third retry, because it failed again, it would come in to the session as a message. So imagine that the session becomes basically the tracker of your execution, of your process execution. And as it fails, for the third time, you would say, right, this is actually message. And because that session is watched and owned by, let's say, product owner now, in our situation where we've got our agents. Let's say we developed a service to check, I don't know, to generate some leads or something like that. So we've got basically non-agentic thing that goes every day, and it scrapes some leads, and it's basically saving them into I don't know, Google Sheets or whatever. And then the process runs. It runs, I don't know, 5 times a night. Gathers the leads, but then it fails once. So the process of it running, success, failure is recorded in the session. So think of the session in this case as a log. Then it fails once, twice, it's just a reply, it doesn't trigger the LLM, but you already can see basically the output of what's happening with the session. The third time, because we set up, let's say, 3 retries, the third one is a message. The message will trigger the LLM. The LLM is already in the session. He was just not looking because things either were going well or the errors didn't get to the last retry. The last retry is looking at the errors, and it triggers the LLM. Then the LLM basically investigates, fixes the errors, and tries again. So it's like, sessions become your logs for a lot of processes. Sessions and sub-sessions are becoming features, tasks, and steps of those tasks. And then you ask Pandora, let's say, do you know what, I want to build some kind of stick to the calculator app. So I want to go and build my calculator app. The Pandora would send it to project owner, And the project owner, first thing he would do is like search, like, do we have calculator up already, project set up or session project set up? If the answer is yes, what stage are we at? Is that the new feature you want to build? Is that, like you want to build calculator app? We already have the project there. Like, is that separate? Do you want to, you bounce back, you ask, is it separate? Is it new project, or do we just add it, to the existing project and everything else? So it's more like sessions become basically your memory at the same time as sessions, which is probably quite difficult. Probably quite difficult thing to grasp with that, without seeing it, because at the moment it's just in my head. But yeah, that's kind of the idea, that eventually I want this to be kind of like a, something that we haven't seen. And who knows, maybe there's a good reason why we haven't seen it. But yeah, I still want to try it and see. Maybe it will be useful, maybe it will not. Right. So what do we have here? All the errors. Right, we've got Opendora, OpenCode. We don't want to go to OpenCode, we want to go to Opendora. Right. And Cascade, what did you do? Let's have a look at Cascade. What did he do? Okay. So we got setup step of steps at the BA. That's probably on the session. Okay. Right. So a tool explicitly returns stop. Okay. So we've got basically. Right. So basically what we've got there is probably that's come from OpenCode, which for coding it might be, and it is, very useful feature. And it's basically like a dead loop. So it's kind of carry on going and going and going. And I imagine not only for like OpenClow probably has the same thing, but I just keep pushing the LLM to kind of carry on working until the job is done. Now, because of that, BA, rather than stopping after reply, it's basically going and going and keep asking questions because he didn't get the answer. So I need to figure out the best way to see if we can switch it off in BA or certain agents. So the loop situation with the BA and other agents, is it something implicit that is being applied into every agent? And is there a way of switching this functionality on and off? Can we have a switch per agent to either enable the kind of loop and persistence in basically getting the task done, or is that something that we shouldn't do? I mean, is it something we should be implementing, or should we just stop after reply? I mean, there's probably a few ways of looking at it. Like, let's say Pandora, I don't really want Pandora to carry on going. Like, if she answers some question, I don't want her to, to carry on. Or is there any flag that the LLM has to determine if the job was done or not, and then it automatically stops the loop? Like, what is the deal with that functionality at the moment? Let's maybe focus on that. Okay. I don't think that fix is in place yet. Let me. Right, I have almost reached the session limit, so I'm going to come back to this in 25 minutes. The problem with the messages, it looks like it did implemented that, so what I will do, right, I need you to run quick experiment. I want you to basically ping Pandora with expectation that he will reply to us. So basically ask us something and make sure you pass over reply to, so Pandora will come back to us. Right, to be 100% sure, I am going to restart the server because Claude mentioned that he changed whatever he thinks is necessary for it all to work, or the links to work. So let's test the implementation. I'm going to reset the server just to be safe and be like 100% sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do. And then I'm going to ask again Minds to do a small experiment and just ask Pandora to reply, and we'll see if the reply is going to basically provide a clickable link, because the delegation definitely works. I think the reply tool takes us to the right message. It's just the message itself, I don't think, is taking us back to the right place. So let's see how it's going. And by the way, you can see over here we've got basically Pandora working, so we can see the agent is working. Hello. and Pandora has 2 links. Right, why are you still spinning? Right, so yeah, so it looks like it worked. And does it work both ways? Yes, it does. So we can actually consider it fixed or L, but open. Okay, so it's got 2 links. I think the one of them is redundant, and then we've got Pandora twice. Okay, fine. No, never mind. I think there's a lot of things that I will need to kind of tidy up and clean a bit. But yeah, we've got our message from Pandora. We can click the link, and it's taking us directly back into here. Then, as you can see over here, maybe I can figure out a way to make it even nicer. I can look at hidden message again. You know, this is the kind of sub or like injection prompt that sometimes I've chosen to add to make sure that the contract is respected. So like this is the delegation tool, and then in that delegation tool we basically ask for the um, the delegation is using reply to message. Now, reply to message is basically like a contract uh, where you don't wait for the work to be done, you just fire and forget. And what's supposed to happen is the agent is receiving the message and then is processing with the promise of basically using the reply tool. So it's like a contract that, you know, when you've been delegated a task and you've been given the reply to path or reply to session ID, reply to that session. So yeah, that we can consider that done. We probably need to do some cleaning up and everything else, but other than that, I think it's you know, progressing well. What do we have here? We have our reply now. Okay, current state. Loop is applied to all agents. Yes, the loop is applied universally. Every agent runs through the same session processing loop in prompts. Yes, so that's fine. How it works right now. Step 1, max steps. So we've got max steps defined. Where do we define project owner, BA, PM 60, iteration for complex orchestration? Right, where do we actually do that? So I got project owner, this is not set. So the Pandora has got like infinite loop. Okay, so fine. So it means that we can probably set that, so that's good. What currently stops the loop? So LLM finish reason natural stop. Process message finish. Well, that's something. Okay, so model decides it's done. Hit token limit. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So what can we do? Okay, so we've got no stop after mechanism. What happens now? BA calls blah blah blah. Yes, repeat until limit or LLM naturally stops. What should happen? BA calls reply, message surface in Pandora. Loop immediately stops. BA waits for user response. User response triggers new BA10. BA calls reply with the next question. Loop stops again. Your question answered. Is there a way of switching this this functionality on and off per agent? Currently only via steps, like step 1 would basically force it to do just that. Omit naturally stops could be forever. Not explicit blah blah blah. So yes, should stop after reply, should stop after reply, should stop after reply. Okay, is there any flag? So yes, there is finish reason. When the LLM returns finish reason stop, it's saying I'm done. But this is unreliable for async delegations patterns because the LLM doesn't know it should stop after reply. The LLM might think it has more to say. The LLM can't see that the user needs to respond next. So the finish reason works for singletons, blah 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 blah. It doesn't work for interactive multi-turn conversation BA. Async delegation with reply, Pandora BA. Recommended solution. So yeah, option 1. That's what I like, the solution part. So the option, where is option 1? I like it so much I lost it already. Where is my solutions? Recommended solutions, there it is. Make reply always stop. Simple. Modify reply to turn a stop signal and update the processor to honor it. That actually might work. This is probably correct. Okay. Add new field to agents. Oh. Okay, so okay, so right, we want to keep things flexible, so we will. Right, we want to implement option 2, where we have, like in, excuse me, in the UI, if the reply tool was added to the agent, for that specific agent, we want to catch the stop after reply true or false. So this is almost like a feature that is added to that specific agent, but only if they have basically reply tool enabled, isn't it? So that only makes sense. So we want to make sure it's within the, I think it's says, right, let's have a look actually where it is, because I forgot. So let's go into pump settings. We're going to go into agents, and we need to select our agents. So where's BA? Let's edit BA and tools. We've got tools. Okay, so we want to be able to add it in the sessions tool. So if I select reply, same as I've got delegate agents, I want to be able to select reply, and that will allow me to tick or untick the additional feature of stop after reply. And this should apply only to that agent. So each agent should have their own settings for a tool. Can you implement it or plan a first implementation? Right, let's do this. And now we are going to check quickly. Right, weekly usage 81%, that's not bad. I've got daily quota, that's not so bad. I've got still plenty of usage left. I've got 4 minutes in my cloth, so you know what's going on here. Try again, like what you couldn't find. What do you mean not found? Error occurred. Right, fine, it's working now, I believe. Yeah, let's have a quick catch up with the progress. Right. Right, still got a few minutes. I'm going to wrap up the session, so whoever sees it, and if you think or it's total waste of time, or you think it's a good idea and you would like to see a little bit more of it, please subscribe. And I'm not sure if I already published the project as it is, but I definitely soon will. And then, you know, if you would like to follow the journey, please subscribe. And then if you like to contribute in one way or another, I will try to find a way everyone can contribute to that in GitHub and any other way, like even ideas, you know, the path it should take and everything else. I'll be more than happy to, you know, consider every idea or every input. You know, if you enjoyed watching it, you know, I'm having fun building it. So if you enjoy watching it, that's, you know, pleasure of mine. And, you know, hopefully soon you will be able to try as well, use it if you find it interesting. So thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one.